Hello guys, it is me again, it's HorrorFan34, and welcome back to another video, and coming at you with a couple of random reviews. Figured I'd just review a couple films out of the blue, just a couple of random ones. This will be the first one of these random reviews that you'll be seeing. It's a film I wanted to rewatch again, and boy, after watching this again, this movie was a blast to watch again. It's a load of fun. I mean, it's probably one of the most underrated movies ever for me. One of the most underrated comedies. I mean, this is just a fun movie to watch, and after watching it again, I figured I'd talk about it, review it for you guys. And that review is going to be on The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Now, this film that was released in 1990, directed by Renny Harlin. Now, Renny Harlin pretty much got this job because of Elm Street 4, because around this time when this came out, Elm Street 4 was, I believe, the highest grossing Elm Street film out of the franchise around at this time. So they got Renny Harlin to direct this. Now, going into the director, Renny Harlin, really do enjoy Renny Harlin as a director. Really enjoy Prison, Elm Street 4 I enjoy, this film I enjoy, Cliffhanger I enjoy, Die Hard 2 I enjoy, Mindhunters I really enjoy, Deep Blue Sea is a lot of fun. I'd probably say this is without a doubt my top 5 favorite Renny Harlin films. It's up there with Cliffhanger in my top 2. But this film was a blast to watch. Basically, it stars Andrew Dice Clay. And basically, you know, for people who don't know who that is, Andrew Dice Clay was a stand-up comedian who around this time was very, very successful, to the point that he sold out Madison Square Garden for 2 nights in a row, which was not common for a stand-up comedian to do. So he was really popular at this time. Basically, you know, he was known for his dirty nursery rhymes and, you know, things like that. He was very un-PC and, you know, things like that. And because of his popularity, they figured, let's put this guy in, let's get him a movie. So they came out with this. And sadly, this film bombed at the box office big time. Barely made back its money. I think it cost about $20 million, and it made only $21 million. So it was not a box office success, and it got blasted by critics. And I think it won the Golden Raspberry Award for Worst Picture. Like, really? This film? Worst Picture? There are far worse films in 1990 than this movie, and trust me. But Andrew Dice Clay, I think he does a great job in this. It's my favorite film of his that he was in. I mean, I really do enjoy his stand-up. I own Dice Rules on DVD. It's really hilarious. Very un-PC and R-rated. I mean, this is when Andrew Dice Clay is at his best, when it's R-rated and things like that. But not only do you have him, there's a lot of people that have roles in this. Wayne Newton is your villain. Priscilla Presley. You have Morris Day from Morris Day and the Time. Robert Englund is in this because Renny Harlin worked with Robert Englund on Elm Street 4, so that's probably how he got Robert Englund involved. And Robert Englund plays a guy who's a hitman who just doesn't die. So they kind of make fun of that. It's kind of like, in a way, it's like a parody or a satire on action films. And it breaks the fourth wall a lot and things like that. I think it's a lot of fun. Basically, Andrew Dice Clay is Ford Fairlane, who's a rock and roll detective, and he has to, like, try to solve this case of this rock star that was murdered and things like that. And also other people in the film, you have Ed O'Neill, who plays a cop. Ed O'Neill was a lot of fun. I think this might have been right before or around the time Married with Children started. Ed O'Neill, of course, was Al Bundy on Married with Children. He has a really fun scene with Andrew Dice Clay. You know, hootie time, hootie time. You know, so Ed O'Neill's a lot of fun. You also have people like Gilbert Gottfried, who plays Andrew Dice Clay's friend, who's a radio DJ. Who else do you have? Sheila E. has a role in this. Tone Loc has an appearance in this as well. So there's a lot of people in this movie that you'll recognize. And overall, I mean, the Ford Fairlane is just a lot of fun. I like the idea of, like, you know, it's like, I'm trying to think of, like, some scenes. Like, there's a scene, like, when I say it's like a satire on action films, I mean, there's literally a scene where there's these explosions, and then he goes backwards, because that's how, you know, sometimes people get blown backwards in explosions in action films and things like that. But I mean, Andrew Dice Clay just has a lot of fun. You know, has a lot of fun with this role. Like, especially this one part where when this woman comes up to him and she's like, "Hey, you're that guy, the private eye," and then Andrew Dice Clay does that whole thing where he does that, like, thing at the end. I'll show you what I mean. It's like she says, you know, "Hey, you're that guy, the private eye," and then Andrew Dice Clay goes, "Oh, you're a poet and you didn't even know it. Oh!" You know, he does, like, that thing at the very end whenever he has a catchphrase. I mean, just, you know, Andrew Dice Clay, just a lot of fun. Robert Englund's a lot of fun as the hitman who just doesn't die, which is kind of like another reason why this is like a satire on action films, because, like, sometimes you have those action movies where the bad guy just won't die, so they kind of make fun of that. So, and the script is really, really well written for a comedy. It's a pretty clever script. I think this movie deserves a lot more credit. And on top of that, too, this movie has a really kick-ass soundtrack. Just a really great soundtrack. A lot of really fun songs in the soundtrack. Things like that. I think it's directed very well by Renny Harlin. I'd probably say Renny Harlin's most underrated movie is this movie. Because when people think about Renny Harlin, they think about Cliffhanger. It's a great movie. Die Hard 2. It's a great movie. You know, Elm Street 4, really popular Elm Street film. But no one ever mentions Ford Fairlane. And I think that's a shame, because I think this film is a lot of fun to watch. You know, Andrew Dice Clay does a great job. I like his character, Ford Fairlane. Has a lot of really great one-liners. Wayne Newton is a lot of fun as the villain. It's cool to see people like Robert Englund, Ed O'Neill, Gilbert Gottfried, things like that. I think Renny Harlin did a very solid job directing this movie. And I mean, just a lot of really fun other scenes where, you know, where they parody, like, action films and things like that. I mean, they poke fun at a lot of stuff that deal with action films. So that's why I'm saying, in a way, it's kind of like a satire on action films. And it's a really clever written movie, and deserves to be talked about more. The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. But if you enjoy comedy films and you enjoy parody films and things like that, and I think this film is really worth checking out. And if you haven't seen it, if you haven't, you know, heard about Andrew Dice Clay or anything like that, if you're interested in his stand-up and things like that, I think this is without a doubt a must-watch for Andrew Dice Clay. Just the standout of, he just, like, steals the show as Ford Fairlane. He's a lot of fun, and things like that. I mean, just, I can't say much more about Ford Fairlane. I don't want to give too much away about, like, all the jokes and things like that, but I think it's a really fun flick. I love the movie. So that is pretty much it for my review for The Adventures of Ford Fairlane. Thanks a lot for watching, and I will see you guys next time. You guys take care.